welcome back in. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of OnIowa Live here at the Pickle Palace. We have moved things inside this week, a little toasty outside, but I am joined once again by Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. Thank you, Scott, for being here. And a first-timer, Collin Davies, finally joining us on OnIowa Live. Glad that you are joining us this week. Let's start this week how we always do every week, just your weekend wrap. I will start. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about Coach Ferentz's milestone victory, but the fact that this was the first time he did the swarm, and he admitted it to us, and I was like, oh, this is just fitting, and the way that he left at the players, and just because he's built, his program on tradition and things like that. Oh, I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. Scott?
Yeah, I mean, the humility that he shows is why he's never joined
Absolutely.
it. Unlike, maybe a coach up north who would probably lead it every week if he could. But I would say that but probably the thing that I came away with that I thought was most fascinating, Chelsie, was watching Lisa Bluter embrace Kirk Ferentz coming off the field.
That picture was awesome.
You have the GOATs, for Iowa. You have the two winningest coaches in women's basketball and football being able to embrace right there. And I think it showed a lot of class. I remember the day after she retired in Des Moines that, she and Kirk were at this iClub event, and both of them were getting emotional talking about one another. Mm-hmm. So I think it shows a lot of respect, and I think it was just a warm, wonderful moment with two great people.
Absolutely. Collin?
And that's where you mentioned how Kirk, he shows that humility. He wasn't, pumping himself up too much after the game. I thought what was really cool was how he was talking about having the players be around with him and having all of his players that were actually interviewing, working with the broadcast booth. And it was kind of a full circle moment for him. He got to enjoy it with his current team, with former players there as well. And he also got to spend it with players that were working in the media actually interviewing him. So he got to see his player development after all these years, come full circle. I thought that was pretty cool.
And Scott, you wrote about it a little bit too. We don't have to get too into it, but the fact that, it was Hayden Fry and there's a cake, correct? Yeah. And this was a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I thought if there was anything that was really truly disappointing to me, it was that you have somebody who's been in the state for 27 years and set the Big Ten record in most victories, the highest paid state employee. Where's the governor of the state? The governor of the state should be there handing him something coming off the field. The governor of the state then, back in 1991 when Hayden Fry won his 100th game, which is 106 less than Kirk,
right?
Terry Branstad was there in a blizzard handing him a cake. To celebrate that moment. I thought somebody should have been there from the governor's office. Also, no Big Ten commissioner. I thought that was pretty weak.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the Big Ten should have been there with a plaque or something to commemorate this moment, because Woody Hayes coached Ohio State for 28 years, and he's had this record for 47. He's a legend. He's at the highest echelons of coaches. I thought that the Big Ten should have been there to celebrate with Kirk.
Yeah. I will commend the Big Ten Network, though, for the way that they handled everything on the field and the interview and gathering on the players and having that moment. That was a good thing. All right, let's actually get to the game. Hawkeyes wrap up the non-conference with 47-7 win over UMass. They finished 2-1 in non-conference play. 435 total yards, 234 passing. Oh, yeah. And then 201 rushing, 6 touchdowns. Just takeaways from this game. What'd you guys see?
I'll let you start.
Well, I thought the offense, passing offense finally showed something, and there was kind of a different mentality. You could see it from Mark Gronowski when his rushing touchdown at the end of the game. That was the most energetic I've seen him at all year after scoring that touchdown. And we asked him about it in the post-game press conference, and he mentioned that this week he went back to just playing like in Pop Warner. He went back to playing for that kid that grew up playing football, and I think in those first 2 games he put a lot of pressure on himself, and he wasn't maybe having fun. Maybe he was a little nervous, a little tighter, and this week he went out just to have fun. You could see it in the touchdown celebrations and the way you could see he was just playing looser. So that's what really stuck out to me, was if he can take that in through the rest of the year. I still don't think this is going to be a prolific passing offense. It's Iowa football, but I think that Gronowski will. I think that we're going to see him play a little bit less nervous.
I think on Friday we were talking about this game in our Friday Night Lights end zone overtime, and you said 150, right?
Yes, 100. Right? If he had over 150 passing yards, that's okay. He had 179, 2 touchdowns through the air, and then he was able to run the ball as well. And the receivers seemed to get open as well.
Yes, there you go. He exceeded your expectations.
Yes.
Good work. Scott?
I thought it was great that right off the bat they decided let's attack down the field. And this is an opponent that they should have been able to do that. No, they could do whatever they wanted to. I thought they'd be okay. But I think largely to be able to do that on the very first series, go down the field, score a touchdown, passing touchdown. Second series, same thing. I thought that was really impressive. But it also gave them confidence. They needed confidence in the passing game. The receivers needed to have confidence in their quarterback and that he was going to get them the ball. And I think those types of things matter. When you go on the road now in the Big Ten and you're going to be playing after this week some really good Big Ten competition, you need to see how this is progressing. And I think in 3 games, we've seen it go from the worst to okay to now, okay, it's looking much better. Now can you take it another step forward? I think that's the big question this week.
Yeah. I do have to say, though, I think that the game and what they actually did on the field was a little bit overshadowed by Coach Ferentz's moment, and it deservedly so. But obviously, we were talking about it a little bit ago. 206 wins. He's now the winningest coach in Big Ten. And the thing about this that makes it so special is we don't know if this is ever going to happen again. And I think when you kind of look back at that and just what he's done and how he's stuck with Iowa, he had a rocky start when he first started as a head coach. I mean, that, to me, I think it speaks volumes.
I'm not sure it's going to ever happen again, just because I think, especially nowadays with the transfer portal and NIL, coaches are going to have less stability. At big-time programs, we're already seeing it with Alabama this year that they are already talking about wanting to pay that buyout and run them out of town. So I think I don't think coaches are going to be in one spot because I think there's so much movement now. Consistency is going to be tougher, and fans just aren't that patient, right?
I think 120 colleges would want the coach at Alabama if he became available. And Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a coach. But I had this question posed to me in a mailbag that I was writing today: can anybody break Kirk's record? And I think it's possible, but the stresses that are involved for coaches today and dealing with so many different issues versus even Kirk when he started. And it was a high pressure situation then, but not compared to today. I think it makes it really difficult. I look at like Ryan Day is, I think, 46 years old and he's 73-10. If he coaches another 15 years, he's going to break the record unless Kirk's continuing to coach for the next 15 years, which he may. But I think at this point, though, will he stay for 15 years? Will the next coach do it? And then at a program like Iowa or Wisconsin with Barry Alvarez or Northwestern with Pat Fitzgerald, and that are more apt to keeping a coach like Kirk, can they win enough to beat that? I mean, those are two dynamics. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to get past. And so, I mean, Kirk's going to have this record. I think I put it down. I said I think it'll have it for at least 25 more years.
There you go.
So I don't know if we'll be both taking dirt naps by then, or he'll still be coaching. Who knows?
Well, on the record, I want Coach Ferentz to stay around for as long as he wants to. We talked a little bit about Gronowski, but this offense, I think they made a statement, especially that first drive. They threw the ball, right? First drive, the second, third play, I mean, they come out and they score on the opening drive too, which had not happened yet this year. Scott, you mentioned it, just the receivers getting that confidence. They established the passing game from the start. Seth Anderson obviously led the Hawkeyes with 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, too, which was just impressive. This is what I think Hawkeye fans wanted to see week 1, but at the same time, we have to look at the opponent too, and the opponent was UMass, and we knew that the Hawkeyes were supposed to win this game.
Exactly. I mean, this is a matchup opponent for them. I mean, it happened. Albany was too. You had your mulligan against Albany. And Mark Gronowski did not play well, and he knows it. And that's unfortunate considering that was an opportunity to have a game like this. Well, he was able to take what he learned and what he lost that game and turn it around and be able to put it together for this game. And Seth Anderson, his only other touchdown came on the first drive of the Cade McNamara era. So it's kind of good for him to see this. But I think other players to be able to get involved, I think was really important for the passing game at this point.
I think it also showed that they weren't resigned to being an offense that's just going to run the ball. That, if they were resigned to that, they wouldn't have shown all of that tape on a short week going to Rutgers. But I think Kirk Ferentz recognizes how important that confidence is, because they were not a confident group at all going in. They spoke about being able to see it in practice all week and the off season leading up to it, but it hadn't shown in games yet. They really went out and attacked, which is something they really needed to do. And it shows kind of the mindset of the team, that they've taken what the noise that they've heard and what their performances have been the past couple of weeks. They took it to heart and really went out on this past Saturday and really wanted to show people that there is some positivity and some confidence in their passing game going into league play.
You bet. And Gronowski, just 3 games in an Iowa uniform, but he broke the record for most wins by a Division I quarterback in NCAA history, now 1 from the all-time record. He's starting to look confident, in my opinion. This game, I think, is a definite confidence booster for Gronowski. How does that match up, though, in the Big Ten Conference is kind of where my next question goes to.
I think going forward, this week, it's a good week for that, because Rutgers does have a suspect defense, both in the pass game and in the running game. So I think he can continue to have success. Where it ramps up is after this week. And that's why kind of all along, the way this season fit like a stair step for the passing game, you needed to get to this point to where they were going to be able to make those strides. And I think in this case, if you can go to Rutgers and have success, continue to build upon that, then it puts you in that position against Indiana, which is a very good team, to see how you compete. And those are the games where you bring in a Mark Gronowski to go and compete against Indiana and then Oregon and Penn State and beyond.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think Rutgers is a good starting point, because Rutgers hasn't been, really blowing teams out of the water. They almost lost to Ohio in week 1. Now, Ohio actually has a solid team this year in the MAC. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think Rutgers is that perfect first litmus test in Big Ten play.
Well, we will find out. We're going to talk about the other side of ball when we come back to OnIowa Live. All right, welcome back into OnIowa Live. We're going to start with an audience question. This one is from Walt. It says, with 206 wins, has Kirk stepped out of the long shadow of Hayden Fry? I'll start with the short answer. Yes. Scott?
I think it depends on your age, honestly. I mean, I was here for for both eras, and Hayden was larger than life. He had a gregarious personality. He was the most important coach in Iowa sports history because he changed everything. 19 non-winning seasons in a row before he got here. Kirk is every bit as good, if not better, coach. He should be remembered separately from Hayden and equally in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that last statement is kind of where I agree. Collin, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, well, obviously, I didn't know much about
We're
Coach
the young
Fry.
guns,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know, at the time, I think living in the present, is kind of what I can just speak from what I've seen from Kirk Ferentz now. And he's obviously, I think he is a coach that's renowned in college football. And I think he's going to set himself apart in a different way. And I feel like I will know him as the player, the coach that can develop players in this era. I think that's what sets him apart. We're in an era where players are transferring and leaving, coming and going their programs. And right now, Kirk Ferentz is able to get these highly touted recruits and keep them in the program, which is establishes a culture I think really speaks to him as a coach. So he's in a different era of college football, so I wouldn't really compare the two, right?
Yeah, and he finds those gems, especially those ones in Iowa that you can just, the Cooper DeJeans and everything, and just turn them into the Cooper DeJeans that, pick off 3-time Super Bowl winning Patrick Mahomes. All right, let's talk defense. I thought the defense took another step forward. You saw that improvement a little bit. I do think one of the best things that the defense did in this game, but again, it's UMass. They got to the QB a little bit better, I think. I think they missed that against Iowa State. I think if Rocco Becht would have been, pressured a little bit more, maybe that could have rattled things for the Cyclones. 5 sacks this game, 11 tackles for loss. The only thing missing, though, is the Hawkeyes forcing a turnover. I'm still waiting on that because I know this Iowa defense is capable. Scott, takeaways from the defensive side of the ball this week?
It was another step forward, and that's what they needed on this side of the ball because it's easy to forget. I mean, they lost a lot of players from last year. They have a completely new linebacking crew. They have a couple of new faces up front and in the secondary. So every step they take, they've got to build something together. I liked some of the things I saw, though. Obviously, getting the quarterback and getting pressure is important, and that's something they did. And you're right, turnovers. Where are they? These are the doughboys. Well, start making some things happen. I like that they made an adjustment in pass defense. That they had Jackson Rexroth out there alongside Carson Shire in passing situations so it allowed them to get more speed at the second level because they're going to have to use that this year. But yes, they have to get some turnovers because they can look pretty ordinary if they don't.
I think there was a little bit of progress, at least kind of building towards turnover. I remember on Tuesday, the defenders in the media availability were speaking about how they needed to force them into 3rd and longs and kind of be able to force those turnovers. They're not going to find it when on first down, their opponents are picking up 4 or 5 yards every time on first down. They needed to force them in the situations in which they were at 3rd and long, and they did get that because they had 5 sacks. They have 7 sacks, I believe, all year, and 5 of them came just this past week. So that really shows they've amplified that pressure a little bit. So they've taken a step towards it, but they still have got. So the only turnover was on special teams against Iowa State, that muff punt.
It might be my goal every week now to get Scott to say doughboys.
Doughboys.
But speaking of just that group, obviously you mentioned the new faces that are coming in. I've been impressed with how they have stepped in so far. I mean, you see them everywhere. They're all over the field. They seem to have this confidence, even though, this is their first year that they are the true starters, specifically with just the linebacker group, and then beyond, of course, a little bit. But through these first 3 games, maybe where is the biggest growth that you've seen this particular group just take a bigger step?
I would start by saying the secondary.
Okay.
Because they did have some pretty significant departures in Quinn Schulte and Sebastian Castro. The corner position was a turnstile at times last year, and I think now they look more cohesive there. And this game you just kind of throw away, but I think the Iowa State game was one that I really targeted because, to hold Rocco Becht and those tight ends in check, I thought was a really good performance. This week you're going to have a more challenging opponent where Rutgers has averaged 300 yards passing. Ethan Kaliak-Manis, who is at Minnesota, they've played him like 3 or 4 times here now, has had a nice run. Now they have not played a power conference team. And so that will present some challenges for Rutgers to play against a real team. But I think that's, a power conference team. That said, I still want to see some growth there, and they have to get turnovers. I think that's probably been emphasized to them so far by Phil Parker.
Especially to spark the offense, right? It seems like they're going to need a couple of those sparks to really get good field position. We saw it this past week. Special teams were able to get them in good field position. I feel like those turnovers, that's why they're going to be so important.
Well, you alluded to it. You called him. Did you call him the Wizard in Williamsburg, Caden Weegent?
I never called him the Wizard, but he might as well be.
Maybe I saw it online. The Wizard from Williamsburg, Caden Weegent. He was named the Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week today. He's become the first known player in Iowa football history to record a rushing, receiving, punt return, and kickoff return score in his career. I was entertained watching him after kind of every punt and everything, where he didn't necessarily get it the distance that he wanted to and kind of hanging his head. I was like, patience, Caden, it's going to come. We know what you want to do with the ball. But obviously he finally got that one. Stadium erupts. I mean,
he was disappointed after a couple of big returns. I think he had one down like inside the 30 or something like that. I remember him getting up, hands on his head, just so disappointed. And he said postgame that he went back to the coaches on the sideline and was like, "Coach, I've got this next one. I want to take this next one back." And then he did. And then he did. And he joked about he did his track celebration at the end for his touchdown, for his punt return. And he mentioned how he almost fell over at the end because he was so tired.
He looked winded.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's one of the he's
That's
probably
grandpa
the most
for you.
Yes. He's one of the most personable players on the team, and it's really funny hearing him in post game.
Yeah.
You're looking at a guy who ran 150 yards on that play. I mean, he went from the one corner of the end zone across the field and up the sideline and up. And 182 punt return yards, 4th in Big Ten history. I'm sure they would have liked to have get a couple more and surpass Cavante Martin-Manley into 3rd place. That would have been nice for the program. But I think this was a really good bounce back game for him. He had a horrible Iowa State game, and he knows it. And so what do winners do? They go out and then they execute the next game, and he certainly did that. And that play, 95 yards, it ties. We've had Bill Happel on the show many times in the past. He's from Cedar Rapids and ties his record, Big Ten record, stadium record. It was really remarkable.
And Weegen's an example of a player that has really gone out there and earned it. We're talking about a guy that was at Williamsburg and then went to Iowa Western, went to JUCO for a couple years, and then was able to go to Iowa. And it's really cool to see, how his career has really sprung, and he's been able to find success in whatever. He's the guy that whatever the team needs from him, he's going to provide, and whether that is receiving, rushing, or special teams, he's been able to do it this year.
You bet. When we come back, we're going to look ahead as Iowa is on the road this week on Friday. welcome back into On Iowa Live. We are going to start with another audience question. This one's from Eugene. What do you like about Gronowski's running ability?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I like is he's not really, the guy, north-south guy. He just wants to lower his shoulder into someone. And, it reminds me a little bit of like Cam Newton, but that's the thing that also worries me is he can run some guys over, and especially defensive backs can have a tough time tackling him. But I do worry about, obviously, the shoulder issues in the past and, what that wear and tear on this season might add up to.
I think you let it roll. This team's got a tough schedule. He's your quarterback. He wants to play in the NFL. This is the way to go. And if he's going to be physical and run, then that's what your offense has to do. And I think it's a different look for Iowa because it's been more of a traditional, formerly known as pro-style offense. And I think now let him do his thing. And if that's running the ball 8 to 10 times a game, some on some scrambles, some on some called runs, let it go. If he gets hurt, you just can't play scared anymore. You just have to be physical, and they run the ball very well, and that's going to be their big punch when it comes to facing some of the teams they've got on their schedule.
It's really showed out in the red zone and all those kind of goal-to-go situations. He's really been able to take advantage of it there.
We talked a little bit about the good on special teams, Kane Weegan, but there was kind of an uncharacteristic special teams, the blocked punt by UMass. Iowa's special teams is known for kind of causing the disruptions, but maybe there's a miscommunication, between some of the blockers and Reese Dakins. But I have to imagine that after that happened, that LeVar Woods was not very happy on the sidelines. And I'm still kind of wrapping my head around Drew Stevens' missed field goal. Eugene says it wasn't a miss. But a little bit uncharacteristic for Iowa when it comes to this unit.
When you look at the big picture,
okay,
this is probably the best possible thing for Iowa. It stunk in the moment, and I guarantee LeVar's probably going, "What are you talking about right now?" But in all seriousness, to win this game as decisively as they did, and if they wanted to, they could have made it 70-7. But to have these mistakes allows them to correct them, move on, and put it in their mind that we didn't play a perfect game. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the upbacks, there are 3 of them. The one to the far left stepped to the right, which allowed a free lane to somebody else. It's better that happens against UMass than it is this week or any other week going forward. And likewise, we've seen Drew Stevens. We know how good he is. We've seen how good he was in this game. He'll bounce back, but I'm sure that this was something that probably kept him up on Saturday night, going, maybe even practicing in the practice facility.
I had never seen with Drew Stevens. I believe it was on the missed PAT. It hit the post. I've never seen a kicker catch their own kick. It came off the post, and he ran at it. He caught it, and then he had a couple of defensive linemen. He wanted no part in it. He backed off. I think the defensive linemen were confused too because they've never practiced, ball going off the post and coming right back to the kicker's hands. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But Drew Stevens will be fine. I think he'll rebound just fine.
Yeah. It's good, like Scott said, kind of make them now. Obviously, it's a short week. Iowa opens up Big Ten play at Rutgers, 7 p.m. on Friday. Coach Ferentz, never a fan of these short weeks, never a fan of necessarily the travel out coast to coast, but it is what it is. Facing this Rutgers team, though, you mentioned some of the mistakes that, happened this week in week 3, but where do they have to be better if they're going to beat this Rutgers team?
Well, I think you start at and I hate to be boring and cliche, but at the details. Okay. And that is things like, for instance, ensuring that no punts get blocked and you're right on your kicks. But I do think this presents some opportunities in the pass defense because you're going against a prolific pass offense so far with Ethan Kaliak-Manis, and they've been able to put up some points. They scored 60 the other day. I mean, they're against Norfolk State, so they're pretty good that way. I think though that and probably still protecting Gronowski, and then with Gronowski, it's a lot of making sure you get the ball out of your hands. You're making your reads faster because there are times when he's taken sacks this year that are not on the offensive line; they're on him. and he's got to make those things faster, and it's just another step in the process for him.
Yeah.
I think a big thing for this week for Rutgers is Iowa is their first test. They've played Ohio, they've played Miami, Ohio, and they've played Norfolk State. So this is Rutgers' kind of first go at where Iowa had the Cyhawk. So I think it's going to be really about not making those mistakes. I think just whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game. Because I look back to the Cyhawk, and what really sticks out was that that Gronowski interception down the right side of the field that got returned right back, inside of the red zone. And, plays like that you cannot afford to have, especially when you're just starting out in league play.
Yeah. I'll say this, that in the 4 games they played Rutgers since they joined the league, that they've outscored Rutgers 93-17. And they're 103rd in sacks and 97th in sacks allowed. I think Iowa has a chance to dominate in this game, frankly, and force some turnovers. It's just going to be a matter of, can they slow it down enough on defense, their passing game. And then if they can do that, then I think this will be another decisive win for Iowa.
Yeah. So you're saying the turnover could happen this week. That'll be good.
I think so.
Well, Iowa State, they are now 4-0. We'll talk about the Cyclones a little bit. They are now 12th, too, after a narrow 24-16 win over Arkansas State. I think between the costly penalties, Rocco Beck's throwing his first interception, Kyle Conrarty, he missed an extra point, went 1 for 2 on field goals. The defense was obviously tested in this one, and they got bailed out by some Red Wolves penalties. I think this was a little bit of an eye-opener, but probably a good time for Iowa State, too, to head to a bye.
I don't understand the scheduling to go into Arkansas State.
Don't ask me.
I understand from a lower revenue perspective that Iowa State has, that sometimes you get these 1-for-1s or 2-for-1s where you don't have to pay them as much and you get to go to their place. But for a program like Iowa State, which is now a top 15 program that's competing every year for the Big 12 championship, you have the opportunity to what happened, which is you're going to a place where it's almost 100 degrees. You've played 2 of your biggest rivals in a 3-week span. You've been across the globe, and then you come back and you're kind of a tired, cashed out football team. You needed a little chance to play at home or play another South Dakota type team. Instead, you're on the road against a team that has a lot of talent. They're not really good, and then you have all that happen. That's why you almost lost.
You bet. Well, we are going to go back and answer some more audience questions and get to our pick'ems.
Get them back next door, get them moving, get them active again, whether that's
Hi, I'm Frank Ballvance, joined today with Ben from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Ben, what are the advantages of having physical therapy and gym in the same location?
Yeah, when a patient is injured and pain is taking them away from their role in life, we have the ability with the gym right next door to get them back next door, get them moving, get them active again, whether that's returning to exercise, work, or even getting ready to return to a sport.
Very good. What options are available after a patient recovers from an injury?
We have personal trainers, we have small group settings, and then we also have beginner and intermediate classes, depending on your level that you want to get back to.
And how often are staffers available for folks?
Yeah, our physical therapy staff is often around, whether we're helping another patient or just trying to be present in the gym setting to answer questions, to give people quick tips or maybe an exercise or a stretch that's going to help them along their journey.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, our website is chooseabilitypt.com.
All right, very good. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
All right, it is now time for some audience questions. We will start with Walt. One day would you expect to hand off Coach Ferentz's coaching position to one of his staff? Thoughts?
What was
to
that?
one of his staff. Coach Ferentz handing off his coaching position to one of his staff.
Well,
Phil Parker, maybe?
I would think that if it happens on his staff, it's probably Seth Wallace or LeVar Woods, but it'd have to still be a couple years down the road before that happens. I think right now they would probably, and they would rightly should look outside the program, because you just want to make sure you can't afford a slip up in football. You do that, you're in a death spiral in this sports.
Yeah.
I do imagine that they would hand the coaching position off whenever Kirk Ferentz retires. I would imagine it would be internal, just because of the culture that's kind of built there, right? I don't think. Do you want an outside voice coming in to Iowa? I guess is my question.
I think you hire the best person for the job. Okay. And if that's Seth Wallace and if that's LeVar Woods, you absolutely do that. But I also think that the Iowa program, it's a top 20 program nationally. It makes $150 million. You go get the best, if that's Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, if that's the best MAC coach that's out there, if you get Matt Campbell to come across the state, you go do something like that. Now, Seth may be the best guy, and LeVar may be the best guy, but I don't think you short yourself at all as to who takes over the program.
That's fair. I think both of you raised good points. Well, Coach Ferentz is never retiring, so that's my 2 cents. And then last one, 2 coaches have been let go for 0-3 starts. Are you surprised it happened so early in the season? I'll say no, but go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Both of them had really struggled. Deshaun Foster was not a real smart hire, I don't think, for UCLA, just because they had a 3-day search and they decided to bring in one of their prominent alums. Brent Pry just didn't get it done. And he's a good defensive coach, but they need more.
I think UCLA really didn't have a choice. You bring in Nico Emiliava, and it's just been a disaster. There's probably the biggest disaster in college football so far this season. It's been UCLA. And I think Virginia Tech, they really started out. They looked good in their season opener against South Carolina. The defense looked okay. I think it was a 13-point loss to South Carolina when they had Lenore Sellers at the time, and it's just really went off. They lost to Old Dominion. They've lost to Old Dominion in the past, so they needed to make a change. And Virginia Tech is a program that is it should be a big-time college football program. It should be a power in the ACC with the type of game day environment. I mean, you think of Enter Sandman as one of the most iconic things in college football, and Virginia Tech just hasn't been that in years, and that's a program that really needs to figure it out, because it's been a long time, and I think that fan base is kind of drained a little bit.
Yeah, in this day and age, you can't let it go too long. All right, let's do our pick'ems. We will start with Iowa-Rutgers. We all picked Iowa. Scott, why does Iowa win this week?
Iowa is a better team, better overall team. I think as long as they don't get beat 4-1 in the turnover margin, I think they can win this game. Even though they're only a couple-point favorite, I think they can win by 14 points.
I think it's the same. Yeah, I agree with everything Scott said. As long as they win that turnover margin, I think they'll be fine.
Then we got the other in-state, UNI, Utah Tech. Jack is the only one who actually picked Utah Tech. Excuse me, UNI. We picked Utah Tech. Collin, why don't you take this one? Why do you think Utah Tech?
Well, Utah Tech has had 3. They're 0-3, but all those 3 games have been against top 25 teams in the country, and I think that maybe they're kind of due. And they've been close games. They've been very close games. So I think Utah Tech, they're at home. They get that first win. Now, if UNI does win this game, then I'm all in on UNI afterwards, because my big thing with UNI is when Todd Stepsis got there, they have a lot of the same players with that program and on that roster. They just brought in a new head coach, not a ton of transfers. I was never a big believer that. I think there can be a little bit of improvement, but I'm not bought on. I'm not sold on it yet that they're going to go ahead and make a huge jump and go out and beat Utah Tech. We'll see though. I could very well be wrong, and if they win that game, then I'd be in on that program.
In the Big Ten, we have Illinois, Indiana, and we all went Indiana. Collin's the only one that picked Illinois, it looks like. Scott, why do you think Indiana?
I think this is going to be an awesome game.
Me too.
I can't wait to cover it. I'll be there Saturday night in Bloomington, which I've never said before. I can't wait to go to Illinois, Indiana game. But I think they're just a little bit more explosive offensively. I think Illinois has had some slow starts in the first quarter and first half. This one's going to be a field goal game, and it's going to be really exciting.
This is a very intriguing game because everyone. So I worked in Evansville for 2.5 years, Southern Indiana, very big Hoosier area, and everyone there is bought in on Curt Cignetti. But the one thing with Curt Cignetti is the scheduling has been a cupcake schedule. This game against Illinois is not a cupcake game at all. Illinois is a top 10 team in the country. I just don't think they'll come out with a win in this one, just because they haven't, with Coach Sigdays, haven't really been tested outside of the college football playoff too much. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right, we have to make these last two quick. Texas Tech, Utah, we're split. Half of us picked Texas Tech, half of us picked Utah. Collin, you picked Texas Tech.
I think Texas Tech is a program that they're very wealthy when it comes to the NIL, and I think they'll be the major player when it comes to the Big 12 outside of ISU.
But it's in Utah. Is that why you picked them?
Yeah, and Utah's been great this year. So I'm looking at Utah, but I think it could be it's a really interesting matchup.
And then our last one, also Big Ten, Michigan versus Nebraska. We all know who I picked. That's Michigan. I will never pick Nebraska. But you did, Scott. Why?
Hey, I would say, Michigan forgot its coach. I think it's one of the more selfish moves I've seen, and it may come back to bite them. When Sharon Moore decides to take games 3 and 4 off for his Connor Stallion suspension instead of 1 and 2, you're actually going to punt on the Big Ten opener on the road just because you want to go to Oklahoma where you played your college ball. I thought it was selfish, and I think it's going to come back to bite them because I think Nebraska might be a little bit better than people think this year.
Oh, I hope not. Well, as always, though, thank you, Scott, for joining us. And Collin, thank you for joining us this week. We appreciate it. When we come back, we have the Xavier football team here, and we're going to talk with head coach Dwayne Chelsie. right, welcome in. We are joined now by Xavier football head coach Dwayne Chelsie. The Saints now sit 3-0 on the season following a 54-21 victory over Clear Creek Amana. That was a fun game, Coach. Did you have fun?
Well, by the end I did, but not at the beginning, that's for sure. They got up on us 14-0, and
Yeah.
our kids were resilient, though, kept their composure and came back and scored a W. But, yeah, it wasn't fun at the beginning, but by the end it was fun.
Yes. The Clippers obviously came out. They scored the 14 points. What did you say to your team at that moment to turn things?
Nothing really, to be honest. We just kind of kept plugging away and just we didn't really talk about keeping composure, but our guys did, and they just kind of kept battling and, figured it out.
Yeah. At the same time, though, that second half, did you make adjustments because you did not let up any scores in the second half?
Well, I think we do the old thing of just doing your job. We preach it all the time, and we just made some mistakes and some errors in the first half and the second half. And really, after that first few minutes, our guys did their job and just were, doing what they were coached to do. But you got to give Clear Creek Amana some credit, too. That quarterback they got was really good. He's an athlete, so he's hard to contain. But I got to give our guys credit, too. They came back and battled through and did a good job.
Yeah. You mentioned their quarterback, but obviously they got you guys in this game last year. Did you have that on your mind heading into this one?
I'm not going to lie. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So, it was on our mind. We didn't talk about it a whole lot, but I could tell it was on our kids' mind and definitely on the coach's mind, too.
Yeah. What was the difference in just last year and this year's meeting?
Just turnovers and penalties and, blocked punt last year. And, when they scored 2 early ones this year, I thought, oh, God, is this happening again? But like I said, we settled down and did our job.
Yeah, but this was a team that obviously came in. They were putting up big numbers. You talked about their quarterback. They have a really good offense and everything. So to see the way your team responded and how they responded, what do you think that says about your team this year?
I just think experience from last year has really kind of, helped. We have a lot of young guys last year that were playing, and this year that experience is kind of bearing dividends, if you will.
Yeah. You had some injuries last year, too. Everyone seems almost pretty much healthy. Is that right?
Well, I don't really like to talk about the I word. I call it the I word, INJURY. But, every football coach dreads injuries, and you just try to stay as healthy as you can. There's not a whole lot you can do about them, to be honest. Yeah. I know Coach Fry, when he retired, one of the biggest things he said when he retired was he just can't take his players' injuries anymore. It sucks. So, it does.
Your defense so far this year, I mean, even in this game, no points were allowed. What has been impressive about that unit? They just seem to be working together well.
Well, it starts with Jim O'Connell. He's been my defensive coordinator for 32 years. And, he's kind of like Phil Parker at Iowa. He's pretty brusque and blunt, and he'll be in your face and tell you what it's all about. And if you can take that kind of coaching, you appreciate it, and you end up not being a mama's boy, if you will. You're a Mongol mom type of thing. You just suck it up and do what he asks you to do. And if you're tough, then you can play for him. And, that's what we try to get our guys to do.
You've been doing this for a while. What keeps you around the game?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I like being around the kids. It's fun to coach. All the prep and stuff is wearing sometimes, but once you get around the boys and get to practice, and even in the classroom, I still like teaching. So it's just kind of keeps you young being around these guys. You get to say things like "preach" and "appreciate you," and Mongol mom, and Coach Perkins does a great job. All my coaches, assistant coaches are great. So it's just fun to go to work with those guys.
You bet. Well, we're going to invite the rest of the team on stage after this break. All right, welcome back in. We are now joined by a handful of the players from the Xavier football team. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it. Whoever has the mic, can we introduce yourselves? Go ahead. Why don't we start with you?
I'm Michael Bean. I play corner.
Beautiful.
I'm Ryan Kelly. I play wide receiver.
Awesome. Let's talk about that CCA game. Did you guys as players, after they scored 14 points against you, say anything amongst yourselves?
Yeah, it was kind of a punch to the mouth right away, but we just try to stay composed and just try to do our job the rest of the game and just rallied around each other.
Yeah. Did you guys have last year's loss in your mind heading into it?
Yeah, we were thinking about that all week.
Yeah?
All of us wanted to make up for last year.
Yeah, you bet. When things started clicking, when you took the lead and everything, how did it just continue from there?
We just wanted to just keep our foot on the pedal. We just wanted to, really get revenge for last year and get what's ours, I guess.
Defense not letting up any second half points. What does that mean to this unit?
It's a great feeling. I
Yeah?
mean, we prepared all week for that, and our scout team is probably one of the best in the state, and they give us problems. So it's a good practice, and it's rewarding when it pays off.
Yeah. You guys have beaten North Scott 31-0, Western Dubuque 21-13. You're now 3-0 in the season. How does it feel to start the season 3-0? Why don't you take that one?
It feels good that everyone does their job every game. In the practice, scout team does their job. In game, everyone does their job. I don't know.
Yeah? Now you guys hit the road. You're going to face a tough Williamsburg team. What have you guys talked about amongst yourselves about where you want to improve heading into this one?
I would say probably communication and
Okay.
Just get better at just everything we can do, watching film, just going hard every time, every rep.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that? Anything else you guys are saying amongst each other to kind of prepare for Williamsburg this week?
No, just do the same thing we've been doing all year.
Which is?
Doing our job.
It seems like you stick to the game plan, good things happen and everything. What does it mean to be a part of this Xavier football program who has had, a lot of success over the years? What has it meant to you?
It means so much. I think all of us we're growing up watching all these older guys, and it's a great feeling to be one of them now. And, to play for Coach Chelsie, it's probably one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah. Tell me a Coach Chelsie story that is, appropriate for TV that you can think of.
Well, I think he kind of already harped on it, but the Mongol mom, we watched a video last week about how a Mongol mom would turn away if their kid fell off a horse, and he kind of told us we got to be like that. It's no one's going to be there to pick you up, so we just got to get used to getting back up on our own.
Yeah. What has it meant to you to be a part of this Xavier football team?
I agree with everything you said, but
You're doing great.
yeah. I would also add that it's fun to play with your friends every day after school.
Yeah. It seems like this is a tight-knit group as well. Do you guys have fun outside of football?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to get food after the games. I know that's a big part.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's your stop after the game?
Poncheros, Canes, those are the big two spots, I think.
Yeah.
And just kind of hanging out in the locker room after a big win, or just going to someone's house, hanging out.
Yeah. Moving through the rest of the season, what I know, obviously, maybe the end goal, but what are some more goals for this team this year as you kind of move through?
I think just take it week by week, win each game, and prepare the best we can, and obviously at the end try to win a state championship. I think that's always on our mind, but play the best we can play.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about this year's team's goals for the season?
No, I think you did a pretty good job.
That's fair. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it, and best of luck this week. It is a road game against Williamsburg, but we appreciate the time, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next week for another episode of On Iowa Live.
Preach.